Here we are again. The Dolphins lose a absolute tough one. At least it was competitive. Still, they blew a 9-point lead. They allowed 20 points defensively in the second half, 22 if you count the safety. And we just watched them lose a game in Tua's return. They shouldn't have lost. Did we also watch our playoff hopes and aspirations go up in smoke? We will talk about it. Smash the like button. If not for them, then for me.
You have got to be kidding me.
Jaylen has a Dolphin touchdown.
And he will score. Deep upfield on the near side, that open touchdown. The run from Tua Tagovailoa. Touchdown.
He's going deep. He's got it for a touchdown.
Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan. Let's go!
What is good, Finn Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason. And we are back here for another one. It's becoming a little too frequent that we keep meeting under these circumstances with a Miami Dolphins loss. Let me be the first one to tell you this. I don't care how close it was today. I tweeted it out. I said before the game started, and I'll repeat myself, get a W no matter what. No excuses. I'm not here for the excuses. Did Tua have a good game as a passer? Sure. Did he also hurt this team with a botched snap that led to a safety? Yes. Defensively, let's have this conversation. Where was the defense we had that was playing the way it was against all these teams when our backups were in? Like, what's going on? You let Trey McBride absolutely shred you today. David Long Jr. was not good, ladies and gentlemen. But you let Trey McBride shred you today for 124 yards. Marvin Harrison gave you the work for 6 receptions for 111 and a touchdown. One of them was a drive. Two of them, one being a amazing touchdown in the end zone, and then the other one being a game-saving catch to extend a drive. You let James Conner all of a sudden come alive against you. The context will say, okay, 20 carries of 53 yards when you read the box score, but we know his biggest runs came in that final drive. We just watched that defense. I mean, think about this for a second. We just watched this defense have play a tale of two halves. They allowed 135 yards and 7 points in the first half. They allowed 254 points and 254 yards and 20 points in the second half. Almost double the yardage and almost triple the points. The Cardinals only had 5 drives in the second half. 2 of them ended in a field goal. 2 of them ended in a touchdown. You're missing tackles. And you're missing tackles at key moments. I mean, you look at that final field goal, right? I mean, you had Kyler Murray cooked. And you gave him 7 yards. Marcus May missed the tackle. Multiple times you had James Conner caught behind the line of scrimmage. You let him get back to it. The blitzing that worked against Anthony Richardson last week was not as effective against Kyler. Kyler was evading it or making throws on the run. Weaver did not adjust. Maybe look like you're going to show it and drop back guys in coverage and make him beat you from the pocket. Weaver didn't do it. Jordan Brooks was good. David Long Jr. was not good today. I can't believe I just can't believe how bad Tua today 28 of 38, 234 yards, a touchdown. Devon Achane 10 carries, 97 yards. Raheem Mostert 9 carries, 19 yards. Jaylen Wright 2 carries for 18 yards. And the fumbles, man. Now you overcame 2 of them, on that first drive and you scored, but it eventually caught up with you. The botched fumble that led to the safety. Buda Baker was an absolute animal for them today, too. Man, at one point, this is what I don't know, you guys need to understand. In the first half, you gave up 135 yards and 7 points. At one point in the first half, 20 minutes into the game, right, a quarter and a third of the second quarter into the game, you were outpossessing them 15 minutes to 5 minutes. Game ended at 30-31 to 29-29. Defense can be gassed all you want. Fact of the matter is, they were out on the field just as much time, but they got more stops than you. Because if you think about it, this is what it came down to. The Dolphins only scored on 2 of their possessions in the second half, and they only had 4. One of them led to a safety. The other one was a punt. But I want you to realize this. In the last 3 drives, starting with 6:08 left in the third, you let the Arizona Cardinals march 75 yards on 9 plays for a touchdown. You score a touchdown in response to make it 27-18. Then you let them drive 8 plays, 70 yards. Then you punt. Then you let them drive another 73 yards for the easy chip shot game-winning field goal. Do the math in just the final 3 drives. On the final 3 drives alone, you allowed 218 yards just on the final 3 drives alone. It's not like it was it's not like it was the inept offense that was putting our defense in bad field position over and over again. If you're gonna listen, who gave up more points in the second half? The 2-point safety or the 20 points and 254 yards from the defense, including 218 of those yards, starting with 6 minutes left in the third quarter on 3 straight drives. Sorry, man. Tua made a mistake and the safety didn't help the situation, but that defense was not good in the second half at all. At all. So I can't get down on that. I can't. Tua did far more good than that one mistake. Man, look at this. Y'all don't need to turn on the defense. The Cards aren't terrible. The offense has to execute to win games. Bro, so what? The defense just gets a pass to not execute? Is that what we're doing here? See, that's your argument is contradictory of itself. It's hypocritical. You're not holding the defense accountable. You're just holding the offense accountable. Sorry, bro. You guys are excusing a defense that allowed 135 yards and 7 points in the first half, allowed 254 yards and 20 points in the second half. I'm not even counting the 2 points that Tua allowed. What are we talking about here? You know they're running on third down, and Marcus May misses a tackle to stop Kyler Murray to make it fourth down with time left on the clock. We can call a timeout. They kick the field goal. We get the ball back. Give me a break. You held them in the first half. You can't. No. I'm not sitting here trying to look at rankings. You held them in the first half. What's your excuse? You held them to 135 yards and 7 points in the first half. You allowed 254 yards and 20 points defensively in the second half. And you allowed 3 straight drives of 70-plus yards. That ended in 2 touchdowns and a field goal just on those drives alone. Give me a break. Like, you guys will do anything to not. It's crazy. Some of y'all are just not objective, man. Like, man, let's be real here. Holy jeez. And what are you talking about momentum, man? They scored a field goal to start the half. We scored a touchdown. They punted. Yeah, we gave up a safety. They scored a touchdown, but then we scored a touchdown right after that. Then you allowed a touchdown and then another field goal. Like, oh my God. We're excusing poor defensive play? Tua's fumble that led to a safety was brutal. 110%. But the defense makes one stop. We win that game. They had 5 drives. You allowed scores on 4 and 3 straight in the second half. Sorry, man. Weaver would not give up the blitzing when it wasn't working. So that was, it's crazy. Weaver's been so good all year at adjusting, blah, 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 blah. Not a great adjustment plan by Weaver today. Absolutely ridiculous. And people are going to cry over 2 points from a safety from Tua and totally be dismissive of 254 yards and 20 points allowed by the defense. That is some lunacy. Tell me you don't have an agenda without telling me you don't have an agenda. It's not like Tua was sitting here throwing picks and putting the defense in a bad position. That offense in Arizona went 70-plus yards 3 straight times to finish the game. 210 yards on 3 straight drives. 14 to be exact. Holy jeez. You did not see the defense we've seen the last few weeks with the backups in. They were getting put in worse field position from our backups, and they were better. These guys were better being put in worse field position from our backups than they were today. They just allowed the second half just march the whole field. Go ahead. If you guys are going to sit here and strictly blame a quarterback on a 2-point safety and be totally dismissive of 254 yards allowed in the second half and 20 points from the defense, then you got a problem and you don't know ball. I don't know what else, Tua's fumble was awful and did not help the situation. But Jesus Christ, make a stop. And someone's got to answer for this. Holy Jesus, someone needs to answer for this. This season's done. You know what's going to happen? I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. This team is about to go, quote me, this team is about to go 7-4 on this stretch with Tua's out, and this will be the game why we missed the playoffs. Watch. Watch. That's exactly what's going to happen. It's the Titans all over again. Penn says, I love Weaver, but D wasn't great today. We better hope KC loses because we sold our soul for that perfect season and might be all we ever get. Man, listen, I'm going on 40 years rooting for this team. I'm almost at 40 years rooting for this team. And this is what they've given me. Like, this is what they've given me. You know, it's funny. I know all of you who watch me week in, week out, and daily, you'll remember it was either Fin Too Deep or the Finish Line. I think it was Fin Too Deep this week with me and Neil. And we were talking about this. And what did we say? We literally said, we never get the offense and the defense clicking at the same time. It just never, ever happens to us. It never happens to us. Like, if we got that defense from today, if it was playing like the defense it was the last couple of weeks, we win that game, man. We win that game. Absolutely brutal. And the Dark Knight nailed it. The only time it happens was in the Denver game. And look at what happened. Diggum says, don't look over 40. One of my first pictures is of me, of my dad holding me, and my dad's in his Merino jersey. I've been a fan since birth. I am going to be 40 in February. Agreed, Jeff. Agreed. I think Tua's safety was brutal. 110%. Brutal. But I think the defense's performance in the second half was worse. Honestly. You know, it's funny how we're all just, we know what's coming next week, eh? Josh Miller, trade Hill, trade Ramsey, trade John, trade Moser, fire head coach and GM, stack draft picks, smash the restart button. You know, I don't think, you know, they're not trading Hill. They're not going to trade Ramsey. They're not going to trade Jonnu. They're not going to trade any of these guys you named. Let's be honest with ourselves. If they get blown out by Buffalo next week, that's when I expect the move to happen. I don't expect a move to happen today. Because of how close it was. I think they're going to. Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. I think when you see the move happen is if they get blown out, um, if they get blown out by the Bills, that's when I could foresee a move happening. Um, you know, like what do we got next? Correct me if I'm wrong. We got the Bills, we got the Rams, and then we got the Raiders, right? Is that our next three? Right now? Let me look at the schedule. I believe that's our next three. Um oh no, okay, sorry. Yeah. So I think if you get blown out by the Bills, there could be something there. If you don't get blown out by the Bills and you lose, and then you play a couple more games, um, something's gonna happen by the Packers game. Be prepared for something to happen by the Packers game. Now, if you get blown out by the Bills this week, I think something happens. I think something happens after the Bills game. I don't think a blowout will be accepted. The problem is then the schedule is like kind of up and down. Because the other game I'm looking at is if you get blown out by the Packers on that national stage, oh boy, there's no way something doesn't happen then. Amanda says reason. I don't know how the front office sells this team going into next year. It's clear and obvious we've been figured out. Although the offense was good today, but it's just not the same. Please explain. Um, listen. I've already told y'all what I think is going to happen. I think what's going to happen is Greer's going to be the one. I would be shocked if McDaniel and Greer are both gone. And it's not even about what I want or what you want or what she wants or what they want or what he wants. It's just going by Stephen Ross's track record. Now, there's two things that come into play. Number one, he's fired Philbin and Sperano right after giving them extensions. So there's precedent to that. But number two is he never goes full measure. He always goes half measure. That's just what he is. He always takes the half measure. I think Greer will be the one that goes. I think McDaniel will stay. Greer will be the one that goes. And then there you go. Like I've told y'all right now. I've told y'all for weeks. The options are this: fire Greer right now. Let Marv Allen and Reggie McKenzie handle the operations the rest of the year, or promote Brandon Shore because that might be their move. Or fire McDaniel, promote Weaver to head coach, and fire Frank Smith and make Darrell Bevell the OC. I mean, if our offense had a poor showing today, I would again be screaming to McDaniel, fire Frank Smith, promote Darrell Bevell, and give him play calling duties. But our offense, other than execution at times today in terms of handling snaps and drops, wasn't the issue today. With the way this defense has been playing, guys, we should have won that game by putting 27 points up at home. You just can't convince me otherwise. You just can't. We should have won that game. And I mean, you look at coming into this game, right? This passing defense was number 1 in the NFL. They're only allowing 154.5 yards per game. Today, against Arizona and against Kyler Murray, they allowed 307 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, even their scoring defense, they're only allowing about 21.5 points per game. Today, they allowed almost a full touchdown more, 28. Third down. Dolphins defense this year, they were number 1 on third down heading into this. They were only allowing a conversion clip of 26.5%. Arizona went 7 of 13. They went over 50% today on third down. So we were worse than we had been all season on third down. We allowed double the passing yards we usually allow per game. We allowed over 100 yards more defensively than we allow per game. We allow about 285 per game. We allowed 389 today. No takeaways, right? They were 26 in the NFL coming in with takeaways with 5. No takeaways. Like, it wasn't good. It wasn't good. So you just got to be better, man. Amanda says, is the season even salvageable? Or do we just go 9-8? I'm telling you, they're going to go 7-4 with this run, and we're going to look back at this game and be, that's the game. It's the Titans all over. Can I be honest with you? It's either make the playoffs or tank at this point. Jesus. Like, do we want to finish with like the 18th overall pick by finishing 9-8? But they're not going to, because too much has been invested in this roster. You can't convince the players to do that. Like, I don't know. It's unbelievable. Like, they shouldn't have lost this game. You had a 9-point lead. You just should not have lost that game. Defense lost us that game more than that safety. I mean, yeah, the safety counted for 2 points. The defense allowed 20 points and 254 yards. And they allowed them to possess the ball more this half. I mean, like, are we going to sit up here and excuse? Again, I got to say this again. Final drive of the game to go for the winning field goal. 13 plays, 73 yards, 5 minutes and 1 second. You let them take all the time off the clock. You knew what they were doing on third down. May misses the tackle. They run the clock out. Drive before that, 8 plays, 70 yards. Drive before that, 9 plays, 75 yards. I mean, the offense answered the first touchdown after the safety. They made it 2018. Tua and the offense came right back 27-18. They score to make it 27-25. We punt. And this defense can't get a stop. And guys are wide open here. I mean, like, guys are wide open here. All right? Remember, you had them at 1st and 20, ladies and gentlemen. Then you had them at 2nd and 15 from their 32 on that final drive for the field goal. You had them at 2nd and 15, and you give them an 18-yard pass to Harrison over the middle of the field. Then you give up a 17-yard run to James Conner. Then you get them to 3rd and 4 at your 27. You know they're running. and Marcus May misses a tackle on the keeper or the read option from Kyler Murray. Come on, man. It's bad. And remember, I'm the same guy who sat up here and said the last couple of weeks defense has not been our problem. I was telling all y'all the D was keeping us in the game. Our offense was putting them in a short field position consistently. Today didn't have that. You gave up 73 straight 70-plus yard drives. Yo, we would have killed for that with Huntley in the backups in. To having them to go 70 yards against us. Who's making excuses for the defense? The defense sucked today. What are you talking about? It's what I've been saying the whole show. The defense was great in the first half. 7 points, 135 yards allowed. Second half, the bottom fell out. 20 points allowed, 254 yards. You allowed them to score 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals 4 times on 5 drives. I didn't make an excuse for the defense. Marvin Harrison and Trey McBride cooked you. Cooked you. You came in allowing 154.5 yards per game, number 1 in the league against the pass. You allowed 307. But the crazy thing is, again, all of it was in the second half when it mattered. And now what? Oh, if you watch my live stream, I said they were settling for too many field goals. But in the second half, they were scoring touchdowns. I mean, they put up more points in the second half than they did in the first. You know? And there were things that were adjustable. You know, you knew that blitz wasn't working and he was killing you. And you kept calling it. Just a follow-up to my question, do you tank or what? My Lord, I don't want to watch a tank season. We did it last time. And we had to go through this 5 years ago and we didn't even do it right. Like, we didn't even do that right. So, I'm not, you know, listen, I'm here for the better draft pick, but I personally don't want to sit through another tank. Personally, I don't want to sit through another tank. Knight says it's over, wasted our time again. How did Chop look today? Chop was actually good. Had a tackle for a loss, had a bunch of pressure. He was good. Chop was not a problem. How much did we lose by? 1. If the defense didn't allow 20 points, they could have blown them out. What affects the scoreboard more, 2 points or 20 points? Just remind me. At this point, as a GM, what are you doing now? Reason. Definitely not allowing Greer to use more assets or resources. Like, not happening. Not happening. Like, do not touch them. Do not touch them. Leave them. Because I'm going to tell you this right now. If Tua stays healthy and Tua keeps passing the football the way he did today, Tua ain't going anywhere in the offseason. But I still stand by drafting a quarterback in the first or second round as your contingency plan and legit putting all your chips into that. It's also cheaper, if you think about it, it's also cheaper than going out and paying a top tier backup. Plus, you get to groom them. So I'm down for drafting a quarterback in the first 2 rounds. All right. Tua can ball out. Tua can take it to the playoffs. That's cool. I still want, we beat the Bills next weekend. I'm still not going to Tua balls out for 500 yards and 4 touchdowns. I'm still going to say draft a quarterback in the first 2 rounds. Just still going to say it. We got to have that in our back pocket. That's the first thing. Okay. I just do not see them blowing this up. I just don't see it happening. I wouldn't hold my breath hoping they're going to blow this up. Because still, listen, if we draft a quarterback, do we want to strip his cupboards bare? If anything, we should be adding to this team. I would still try to trade for a veteran guard that you can get in the building heading into the offseason that you could re-sign or that's under contract if it was available. And I'll do my trade deadline target show. And that's for Tua, and that's for the kid you draft. See, that's the thing. Are we going to really strip the cupboards bare if we want to bring in a contingency plan quarterback that could eventually either be forced to take over the job by injury or be eventually passed the torch? Do you really want to strip the cupboards bare? Loved Will Campbell. Struggled a little bit yesterday. I ain't gonna lie to you. Struggled a little bit. But yeah, he's a beast. Would he be he would be on my wish list for sure. There's a couple guys that would be on my wish list, right? Kelvin Banks, Emory Jones. There's a lot of good players, I think, at tackle in this draft. I really do. So, but yeah, you look at the tackle class, it's pretty good. So, because you also got that kid from West Virginia, Wyatt Millum. He's good. You got obviously Penn State. If you've been watching Drew Aller, you've watched Drew Shelton. You know what I mean? Jacob Sexton from Oklahoma. So there's definitely guys in this class at tackle. I think the interior class is really strong, right? We start talking about Brailsford from Alabama and Booker from Alabama too. Ernest Green from Georgia. We talk about Will Campbell. What about DJ Campbell from Texas? There's a lot of guys. Tate Rutledge from Georgia as well. Clay Webb from Jackson State. Right. There's some good kids. Cole Hudson from Texas, another one I like. Donovan Jackson from Ohio State. So there's a lot of good interior offensive linemen in this draft too. That's for sure. That is for sure. But yeah, there's a ton of players. Steelers a difference maker. Hey, you know what? What's crazy is they were good against the run until when it mattered the most, and you allow a 17-yard run to James Conner on the final drive, sorry. Listen, the snap was high, it was wobbly, and it was fast, but Tua should have handled that. Listen, I may think the defense was more of a liability and more of a reason why we lost today than the safety, but I still put that safety on Tua. You got to be better, man. You got to handle that football. That's it. That's just what it is. So, tough loss, man. Just an absolutely tough loss. I don't know. I mean, what do you say at this point? Really, like, what do you say at this point? Tough. Like all the expectations, and we're sitting here 2-5, staring down the barrel at 2-6. I would say the personnel usage wasn't that impressive again, more than the play calling. He had some good play calling, like those those wrinkles with the flips. Now I'd be calling those wrinkles, you know, more when you get in the inside the 10 and things aren't working. You know, it's I don't know. They're not going to get Tank Ward, or they're not going to get Shedeur Sanders. I'm telling you, they're not going to be bad enough to get those guys. Watch. Mark my words. Those are going to be the first two guys off the board. I'm telling you right now. They're going to be the first two guys off the board. They're not going to be bad enough. They're not going to allow themselves to be bad enough. You would need to trade all the veterans right now, like the Calais Campbells. You need to strip the roster and start Skylar Thompson. They're not going to bench Tua. That's not going to happen. They're not going to trade Tyreek, because I don't think you can trade him until after this season when you look at his contract, if I remember correctly. They're just not going to do it. They're just not going to do it. Like, you just got to temper expectations. It is what it is. You could have, maybe you score instead of settling for a field goal. When you got all the way down to the 7, maybe on that 2nd and 4, instead of running with Mostert, who hadn't really been doing anything to that point, you go back to Jaylen Wright, who had 2 carries for 18 yards at that point. Like, I want you to realize this. And this is what continues to not make sense. All right. Jaylen Wright. All right. That guy did not have a carry after the first quarter. His last carry, 2nd and 19, he ran it for 12 yards after a 6-yard run a couple plays before that. Remember, at one point, Mostert had 5 carries for -1 yards. Maybe Wright's proven he has the best vision and he's our best gap runner. Maybe he makes something happen when you get inside the 10. But nope. Stick to what's not working. I can tell you right now, Tua did not have all day to throw. When we look at the time to throw stats tomorrow, we will see Kyler's going to have way more time to throw. But it's because he can also extend plays with his legs. But yeah, they seemed, our offensive line did a pretty good job for Tua, though. Our offensive line had a pretty strong day today. I ain't gonna lie. No, our run game was not the problem today, but the issue was, and I called this early on, the little things add up. Okay, so we can talk about the safety. We can also talk about what I've been saying about the defense allowing 20 points and 254 yards in the second half after allowing 7 points and 135 in the first half. I'll give you another little thing that adds up. Not running the football enough. All right? You ran the ball 25 times. You dropped Tua back. When you do the math, you dropped him back 42 times. 17 more times. All of a sudden, you lost that balance you had been finding. Why does that matter, Reason? If you run the ball a little bit more and get some first downs, do they have 5 minutes to march down the field against us at the end there? I mean, see, that's the thing, right? You ran the ball 25 times for 150 yards. You were averaging 6 yards per carry today. If you do the math, Tua Tagovailoa was averaging about 6.2 yards per pass attempt. Now I get it. The screen is an extension of the run game, et cetera, et cetera. But I mean, there's no reason why. You dropped Tua back 17 more times than you ran the ball. 4 or 5 of those snaps couldn't have gone to Wright, who was averaging 9 yards a carry today. Had a 6-yard run and a 2-yard run and a 12-yard run. I mean, you do the math. 6 times 9. Sorry, let's do 5 carries. 5 times 9. We're at 45. That's an extra 45 yards. That is a good amount of time if you're running the football. And then you're just totally allergic to Jaylen Wright when you get inside the red zone. That's what's even crazier. While most, remember going into their fifth carry, Mozart's fifth carry, 5 carries, -1 yards. Jaylen Wright, first 2 carries, 18 yards. Odell Beckham Jr. was not even targeted today. D. Eskridge made a big play. And then you got drops. Jonnu Smith, right? Like, here's the deal, too. You go by the lack of execution. Settle for a field goal after, you settle for a field goal after a holding by Austin Jackson that you just couldn't dig yourself out of. I mean, the next play, Jaylen Wright ran for 12 yards on 2nd and 19, brought up 3rd and 7. Achane got 3 yards. You had to, and then you had to take the field goal. The punt. Then you get the ball back and you punt. You get to your own 44. 2nd and 8. He makes a throw to Jonnu Smith. Jonnu has a concentration drop. Would have moved the sticks. Would have moved the sticks even further. Then you have the Waddle drops. You had lack of execution from both sides, but the defense's lack of execution in the second half is what hurt us the most in the end. That's basically what happened. Chop had a good game. I really wanted to give away this Chop Robinson card. We'll do it again next week. And I gotta watch my team get shit pumped by the Bills next week after this. And that's when I think the changes are gonna happen. Now I could be wrong. And it could happen tomorrow. We could wake up to tomorrow to some news. But I think if you go get blown up by the Bills and you're 2-6, that's when I think it happens. And I've told y'all what the scenarios are. McDaniel cans Frank Smith. elevates Bevel, and hands over play calling. That's a good scenario. But you need the offense to struggle next week for that to happen. McDaniel and Frank Smith get fired. And Weaver gets promoted to head coach. And Bevel promoted to offensive coordinator. Or just Greer's fired. Because I don't think it'll be just McDaniel fired. I think it would be Greer. I've already told you what I think is going to happen. I think Greer's on the way out. Daniel said he's looking at drafting a pass rusher. Man, 2 weeks in a row, Chop almost got there and got held and no call. Is it Frank Smith or Butch Berry? Because the offensive line has got better under Butch Berry. I just looked up Greer's win-loss record. It's 68 and 67 in 10 years as a GM. And he's been here since 20. Listen. Okay. If you want to look at the losing culture, what's the common denominator? It goes back to what McDaniel said last week when he wanted to clean up the discipline. Now, to his credit, they were much more disciplined today, right? To his credit, they were much more disciplined today. They only had, when you look at it, they only had 2 penalties. Like, that's what hurts too. They were, they only had 2 penalties. But anyways, they found a new way to shoot themselves in the foot, and that was fumbleitis. But anyways, I'm going to say it. It's going to sound mean. Chris Grier is part of the loser culture. Who's the common denominator through all the losing? Whether Tannenbaum was in charge, whether Ireland was in charge, to now he's in charge. It's been Chris Grier. And this is coming from a guy I've defended Chris Grier, because when you hit anywhere, like if you hit on 40% of your draft picks, you're an amazing drafter. If you hit 50%, 60%, you're a god amongst NFL circles, okay? Because, it's hard, right? But I know I'm making it look easy, but it's hard. You know what I mean? So I've defended his drafting. What I've always knocked him for is not getting out ahead of market value contracts, not getting out ahead of contracts before the market value skyrockets. We've seen it happen with Wilkins. We've seen it happen with Robert Hunt, et cetera, et cetera. I've been calling him out for years about that. But now, I'm sorry. If we're going to look at the common denominator, it is Chris Grier when you talk about the losing for the last 20 plus years. I'm sorry, it is. It just is. You know what you need? I'm going to tell you. You need to go get a GM, and this is why they'll give McDaniel a shot. I'll tell you right now. You need to go get a GM that's going to do what? Have a set of balls on them. You know why? I'll give you examples. 2020 draft. You trade back from Jordan Love. Before you were going to trade back, you were going to take DeAndre Swift. Now I'd have taken Jonathan Taylor. But the idea was there, and the player would have probably actually been DeAndre Swift would be good under Mike McDaniel. But anyways, I digress. And then what happened? You traded back, and the pick changed to Noah Benogany. You let him get in your head. This whole, I'm going to, perfect example, AVG, all you that love AVG, y'all don't think Weaver had a say in that? I know for a fact AVG was being told he's a priority and they're going to take care of him when Fangio's here. Fangio leaves, all of a sudden, go. And they go after Shaq Barrett, which is clearly a Weaver call. Okay? So you need a guy who's going to say, listen, I will listen to your evaluations. I will take your scouting reports into consideration. But I'm going to draft the guys I think are the best for what you're doing offensively, defensively, and on special teams. I'm going to trust my scouting department. I'm going to trust us. And hey, if our visions align on players, so be it. And you also need a guy who's going to do that for free agency. A guy who will either do that to stick up for his own in the right way, not the Liam Eichenbergs, But how do you stick nuts to you go to bat for Liam Eichenberg to get fixed by Mike McDaniel, but you won't go to bat to keep AVG for Anthony Weaver? Make that one make sense. So, and then if we're going to draft a contingency plan at quarterback, whether you're a Tua fan or not, do you want him being Chris Greer being the guy that drafts the quarterback? He went out and got Josh Rosen, who certain creators in this space told y'all was a franchise quarterback. His backup contingency plans of Bridgewater, of Skylar Thompson, of Mike White have all been absolute failures. So I think if you want to shift the losing culture, buy Greer. I think that's where it starts at. Listen, if they turned around and they fired Greer and McDaniel, I get it. I'm going to be honest with you. We're Dolphin fans. You know what a part of me fears too? And I've said this. You're going to fire McDaniel. He's going to go get an OC job somewhere else. He's going to figure it out in a couple years, get another head coaching chance, and he's going to be unstoppable. Dan Campbell, but in a shorter period of time. That's exactly what's going to happen because we're Dolphin fans. That's why, listen, he did what Flores can do. He brought us coordinators and coaches, good ones that wanted to come here and work, like Wes Welker, et cetera, et cetera. He's got us back-to-back playoff berths. Our first Pro Bowl quarterback since 95. I'm more lenient to give him one more year than I am Chris Greer. So I would get that. But at the same point, if they fired both of them, I would understand that too. But I want to see him with a GM who does things his way and doesn't so much give into what his coaching staff wants. A set of balls. That's it. And I want you to go snipe this guy from a winning organization like the Chiefs. I'll put it out there. Everyone talks about how they might want Mike Vrabel, right? If McDaniel gets fired, I want Steve Spagnuolo. That's a guy who, look at how good of a coordinator he's become. Didn't work good the first time in the coaching cycle. But look at Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn wasn't good the first time in the coaching cycle. Continued to become a great defensive coordinator. And now look what he's doing in Washington. I would take Steve Spagnuolo. And you know what? Because Steve Spagnuolo will pluck from the Kansas City Chiefs. And maybe you can start getting, you got to pluck from the Chiefs, from the Ravens, from the 49ers. You got to start plucking from the good organizations. And I think Steve Spagnuolo is a name that not enough people are talking about. If you are going to move off Mike McDaniel. As Ted DiBiase once said, Rhino, everybody's got a price. So I'm throwing my hat where if you're moving off McDaniel, screw Mike Vrabel. Give me Steve Spagnuolo. He's won Super Bowls recently. He's been working under Andy Reid. What has Dan Campbell done on his path to success? He went under Sean Payton in New Orleans. Give me Spags for the second time around. If you're going to move off of him. Anyways, I'm just saying. Tua can only do so much, but it's not good enough to win big games. Mahomes, Allen, Burrow would have closed it out there at the end. I think Greer and McDaniel aren't fit for their positions. I mean, I can only give you Mahomes. Allen has buckled in big moments, and so has Burrow too. I would think Burrow Mahomes was better than Allen because he's a turnover machine, but Mahomes is the only one that's probably a sure bet out of those three, in all fairness. He's a 101. Tua is not the problem, but also not the answer. Tua seems to me that he won't be the reason why you win or be the reason why you lose. Now, I mean, there's reasons, the Baltimore Ravens game a couple years ago, the Chargers game to open the season last year. We've won games because of Tua, for sure. All right, guys, smash that like button, subscribe for new. I will be back tomorrow. We'll recap everything. We'll talk about everything. Appreciate all y'all. We'll do the jabroni of the week, everything like that. All right. Smash the like button, subscribe if you're new. Fins up all day, every day. Catch y'all on the next one.